Ingredients. One of the factors that makes the difference between success and failure. When I've looked at my life, the goals that I've achieved in my life, and the goals that I've failed and made attempts at that didn't work out the way that I wanted to, when I've analyzed my failures and my successes, I've noticed there's this one factor, this one ingredient that's what made the difference in my success or in my failure. And I've especially noticed this more when I analyze other people that make a commitment in their life to achieve a goal, whether that's going through a course, whether that's building a business, whether that's transforming their body, getting in better shape, or transforming their relationship, or developing a new habit, a new hobby in their life. What makes that difference? Why is it that some people, they set a goal and they go on to achieve that goal, whereas other people don't? Is it really the information? Is it the strategy? It's not. That's one factor. That's one factor across many factors, of course. If you have the right strategy, it can guide you there, make it a lot easier, make it a lot faster for you, rather than if you don't have the right information, the right strategy. But there's also many people out there that have all the information, the strategy, they invest in a course that can give them the strategy and help them achieve their goal, but they still don't become successful. They still don't achieve their goal. So it's not just strategy. In fact, I'm a big believer in something I heard a long time ago from Tony Robbins. He says that 80% of your success is going to be your psychology, your mindset, and only 20% is going to be the strategy, the information. And the mindset, the psychology is kind of a big word, but there's many factors that make up your psychology. And I think the biggest one and the most important one is this idea of commitment. Setting a commitment and being committed to your goal. Surely people that achieve their goals and become successful and those that don't, the people that achieve them, they have a stronger level of commitment. They have more reasons to do it than to not do it. And I've noticed that to be true in myself, in my life. Because if you really think about commitment, if you want something bad enough and you're truly committed to it, and you say to yourself, I will find the way or I will make the way, when you have that level of commitment of doing whatever it takes, then you will figure it out. You might not have the intelligence, you might not have the creativity, you might not have the experience, you might not have the time, you might not have the money, you might not have a lot of those resources, but if you're committed enough, you will become resourceful and you will make it happen in spite of all the challenges that are out there. And you can always find countless examples of people that are worse off than you and I, because oftentimes people, they have their reasons or maybe excuses why they couldn't achieve their goal. And they might be legitimate reasons. It might be the fact that you've got 2 or 3 kids at home and they're consuming a lot of your time, or that you've got a stressful job, or that you don't have as much time as the next person. That might be true. There's definitely factors like that, limitations that we all have. But if there's other people out there that also share those same limitations that you have, another mom out there that's got 3 kids, or another person that's working paycheck to paycheck or has a very stressful job, but in spite of that, they're still achieving their goals and becoming successful in spite of that, then it's not your circumstances, it was their level of commitment. Because there are people out there that are burning the midnight oil. They're putting in the time, they're putting in the weekends, they're making sacrifices in their life, they're working smarter and more efficiently to achieve it in spite of these other factors that they might not be able to control. So I believe that you become successful at something, you achieve your goal. That ingredient of that is, how bad do you want it? Do you want it badly enough? And if you're not achieving your goals, then the simple answer, the simple reason why, is that you don't want it bad enough. You're not willing to commit yourself to the same extent as maybe someone else might be willing to commit themselves. And that's okay, but you have to decide, do you really want this? The goal that you're setting for yourself, do you really want it? Do you want it bad enough to perhaps make sacrifices in your life, or to go through the process and be able to get past the adversity and the challenges and the mistakes and the inevitable difficulties that you will endure on the pursuit of it? Are you willing to stick with that? Because if you're committed enough, then you will persevere. You will keep going in spite of whatever shows up. And if you're not committed enough, then you won't. And unfortunately, I think a lot of people that set goals for themselves, they just don't want it bad enough. It's not a must for them, it's a should, as Tony Robbins says. And as Tony Robbins says, he's great at this. He talks about how we say to ourselves, I should do this, I should do that, I should go to the gym, I should start a business, I should work on my YouTube channel, and you just end up shooting all over yourself, right? It's a should and not a must. When something is a must for you in your life, you make it happen no matter what. And I think for a lot of people, it's a should. They want it if it's easy. They want it if it's convenient. They want it if it doesn't require a lot of work. They want it if they don't have to make sacrifices in their life. They want it if it falls on their lap. They want it if, they don't have to make changes in themselves and overcome difficulties and endure difficulties and go through that process. They want it under the right terms and circumstances that they've defined, but that's not doing whatever it takes. That's not saying, I want it and I'm committed to whatever it takes to get it. I will achieve the goal that I set for myself. There's a great analogy that I love. It's called burning the boats. You might have heard of this before, but the idea behind it is that the ancient Greeks, when they would arrive on an island and they're going to go into battle, what they've noticed is that when the soldiers, they go into this island and they get off their boats, if the boats are still there's a possibility in the back of that soldier's mind that they can retreat. That if they go into battle and it doesn't work out the way they expect, of course you go into battle expecting that you're going to win, but it doesn't always work out that way. But as they're going into battle, if there's a possibility of retreat and that they can get back on their boats and they can get away from the island, then people are going to welcome that possibility of a retreat. And as a result of that, they're not going to give it their all. They're not going to be all in and sacrifice and commit themselves enough to the extent of what they need to really win that battle. And so the analogy is of burning the boats. And so the Greeks, when they'd arrive on the island, they would burn their boats. And so there's no possibility of retreat. They had no other option but to move forward. And that created another level of urgency and desperation than the enemy had. And as a result of that, they were going to succeed, or they were going to win or die trying. It was that level of commitment that they had that allowed them to have a higher probability of success. And so with that mentality of burning the boats, there's no plan B, there's no retreat. You only have to move forward. The back's against the wall, you have to move forward. There's no other way but forward. That's the mentality that the most successful people have. And that's why they've achieved their goal versus the person that perhaps is kind of dabbling with it. They're not quite sure. They just want to kind of dip their toes in. That person's not going to conjure up everything that's necessary for them to become successful. Because the first sign of adversity, the first sign of challenge, or maybe after that newness and the novelty wears off when you're first starting something new for the very first time, because everybody hits the ground running at first because you're excited, right? It's a newness to it. But inevitably, once you stick with something in the process of mastery, you're going to lose some motivation at times. You're going to go into a funk. You might get burnt out. There's going to be things that you're not going to know how to get past. There's going to be some adversity. There's going to be some slow times. There's going to be frustrations and challenges, and no matter what it is that you're pursuing. It's in those moments that you really determine and realize how committed are you. Do you just give up? Do you get discouraged, look for the next thing? Or do you raise that level of commitment in that moment and get past that? That's the difference right there, guys. So you either have reasons or you have results. Okay, anything that's not a result, unfortunately, is a reason. And listen, I get it. Your reason might be justified. It might be legitimate. But the problem is that if you're always looking for reasons and excuses why you didn't achieve something, then you fall into this mode of being a victim. And you fall into deflecting responsibility and saying, I didn't achieve this goal not because of me, but it was because this happened in my life, or that happened in my life, or this happened that was unexpected. And all of that might be true. But the one common denominator in you achieving your goals is you. And at a certain point, you got to point the finger at yourself and say, yes, maybe that did happen in my life.